Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for dropping by. Viewers, subscribers, watchers, trolls, we welcome everybody. What's it like to live in the Philippines? It's lies and bullshit. And we're going to tell you why we say that. So let's talk about it. Okay. We've been in the Philippines for 10 years. All right. We can tell you what it's like to live in the Philippines. Of course we can. Um, you know, but let's look at that for a minute before we go into any of that. Let's just preface this by saying when I left clinical medicine and went into the business side of medicine, all right, I quickly learned the devil is in the details. Well, you know what? So is YouTube with respect to I live in the Philippines. I'm going to tell you what it's like to live in the Philippines. I think that's a tough call. All right? Here's the deal. I can tell you what it's like to live in the province. We have a home in the province in Mindanao, so I can tell you what it's like to live in Mindanao. I can tell you what it's like to live in Angeles City. I can tell you what it's like to live in Makati. I can tell you what it's like to live in a condo, all right? But that's not living in the Philippines. And I don't think a lot of bloggers do this intentionally. I think it's just misinformation based on the fact that they're putting out information for clicks and for views and revenue because it's what they do. Now, I'm not knocking it because there are vloggers and people on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and whatever that have extensive living histories all over the Philippines. But the vast majority of us, even with 10 years of living here, don't. All right? I can tell you what it's like to live in Angeles City. All right? And in Angeles City, we have surrounding areas. We have Balibago. We have Dau. We have Mabalacat. We have Malabañas. We have these barangays and everything. I can no more tell you what it's like to live in a home on a Filipino street in Dau or Mabalacat or Balibago than Dr. Seuss and the Cat in the Hat. All right? Just because it's here doesn't mean we could tell you with any degree of accuracy. We can tell you what it's like to live in Malabañas, all the things within walking distance of our condo, all the stores, going to the mall, stuff like that. But we can't tell you everything. And we don't try and tell you everything because, quite frankly, we'd be lying to you. All right? Now, you've got people that live in Mindanao, and they can tell you what it's like to live in Mindanao. Well, we have a home in Mindanao. Arlen is from Mindanao. We couldn't begin to tell you what it's like to live in mid-Mindanao or southern Mindanao. And quite frankly, it'd be difficult for us to tell you what it's like to live in northern Mindanao, where we live. Now, for instance, an example. We live halfway between Surigao City, which is the northernest point, or almost the northernest point of Mindanao, to Butuan. And we're about halfway between the two. We do most of our shopping when we're in the province in Butuan, about an hour and 40 minute to 2 hour, depending on traffic drive. Okay? I couldn't begin to tell you what it's like to live in Butuan. We can tell you about a couple of different hotels there because we often spend the night. I can tell you about the mall I can tell you about the traffic around the university only because it's been under construction for the past 4 damn years, and it screws everything up. But other than that, I couldn't even begin to tell you why YouTubers won't specify, won't become detailed and say, hey, I live in XYZ. This is what it's like. Now, some do. There are, but there are others that just think that they are absolutely, they know exactly what it's like to live in the Philippines because they live in that one little area. And you know something? I just call bullshit on that. I really and truly do. If, you get expats who live in Palawan who have never been anywhere but into Cebu or Manila and then catch a flight further on into Palawan. And that's their extent of living in the Philippines. Living in Palawan is not living in the Philippines. It's living in Palawan. All right? You can tell us all about El Nido and all about Coron and all about Puerto Princesa. But you're not going to be able to tell us about Samar or Leyte or Bisaya area or Luzon, all right? You just can't do it. You can find these guys that will literally tell you all about living in Manila. What a crock of shit. Let me tell you something. BGC's radically different than Makati. Makati's radically different than Quezon City. All right? And all of that is radically different than Tondo. And all of that, or Antipolo, or any of those areas that are in the NCR, the National Capital Region, Manila as a metro area. I get tired of watching these people spouting bullshit. I mean, I wish instead of having a like button, there was a bullshit button that we could press on their videos, because sometimes the information that they give you is wrong. It is not generalized. You can't generalize what it's like to live in an entire country. I mean, if all you live in is South Beach, Miami, well, how is that going to compare? I mean, you say, I live in America. This is what it's like to live in America. Well, you got no idea what it's like to live in Butt Lick, Arkansas. All right? It's that simple. People need to define it. And when you watch these videos, you need to recognize what experience do these individuals have when they're talking about overall situations, when they're talking about what it's like to live in the Philippines. Then we go to the next problem. What is it like living I can tell you exactly what it's like living in the Philippines on my budget in my area, but let's just exclude my area and let's just look at my budget, okay? Now, we're not going to go into what my budget is, how it exists, what it consists of, what we do, all right? Our finances they're pretty private, okay? But what I am going to say is they need to define that. They don't need to just sit there and say, this is what I pay for rent. This is my average electric. You know something? They need to show you where they live. They need to show you the surrounding area. They need to show you this and that, right? So that you get a good general idea, because everybody lives a different life. We have friends that live much different lives than we do. I mean, we've got a couple of friends whose annual income is over $100,000 a year here in Angeles City. And they are hell bent on spending every single dime of that annual income. They've got property in the U.S., they've got money in the U.S., they've got income streams in the U.S., and they're hell bent on that. Well, their life is probably going to be different than yours, isn't it? All right? I mean, let's be honest. There's not a lot of us, all right, that are out here with $100,000 a year revenue streams to spend in the Philippines. And if you had that kind of revenue stream, I bet you would spend it differently than some of the people that we know. That's just the honest truth. And if you have a smaller income stream, which the vast majority of expats have, all right, they too will spend it differently. I mean, we literally have one friend who has never used anything but the microwave in his well, I shouldn't say that. His girlfriend has made rice on occasion and a couple of dishes on occasion on his stove. All right. But for him, he's never used anything more than the microwave, food delivery, or restaurants. That's it. All right. Not everybody can afford to do that. And so, you need to take these things into consideration. When they're telling you this is what it's like to live in the Philippines, that should be the first trigger in your bullshit detector. It really and certainly it should. When they haven't lived but one place, and when I say live somewhere, I don't mean they live somewhere in a hotel resort for 3 weeks. That's not living somewhere. That's a vacation. I don't care what you want to say or how you want to define it. When they say what it's like to live in Iloilo or in Dumaguete or in Davao or Cebu City, well, if the longest amount of time they've spent there is a month or 2 months, they can't even begin to tell you what it's like to live there. They can tell you what it's like to vacation there. But living there is a whole different story. And that's why we don't do that. Good old Olaf. One of these days, I'm going to break this cup, and it's going to break my heart, to be honest with you. The point that we're making here is who you watch is important. And we don't discount that you shouldn't watch other YouTubers. I mean, you certainly should. Because otherwise, how would I begin to tell the smart? Those of you that are smart are going to already categorize. Hold on. This guy lives here. This is his experience here. All right? And so you're looking for other people in other places for their experiences there. But you're getting a lot of YouTubers. I saw 2 different videos show up on my feed today. Both of them were guys that have been in the Philippines for approximately a year. They've never spent more than a month in any one other than one location. So in other words, they live in, or let's just say, because I don't want to be like I'm trolling somebody. Let's say they live in Cebu. They have an apartment, a condo, a rental house, whatever. And they travel to other places. And they say, this is what it's like to live in the Philippines. Okay? Living somewhere for a month is a fucking vacation. Get over it. These people just blow me away. And that's why we can't tell you that kind of crap. We're not going to. We respect our viewers enough to, and it's part of the problem with our channel. We try and deliver detailed information. And so it drags on, It is what it is. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. We want to be honest with you. We want to be upfront with you. We want you to know what it's like. So trying to tell people what living in the Philippines is like, no. I mean, we can tell you right now, the people that tell you, you've got to get a bank account, you got to do this, you got to do that. Sure. And I will tell you, walking into the bank here in Angeles City is much different than walking into the bank in Kitchener, Mindanao. Much different. The level of service is much different. The actual knowledge of the employees is much different, and what they're used to dealing with is much different. I can remember when Arlen and I were in the middle of our when we bought property. When we bought property, I didn't plan that right. Well, actually, I did plan it right. I didn't want to carry a large sum of cash from here to there. I didn't want to have it because I didn't know would the deal fall through at the last minute, and I'm, carrying this cash around. So I said, well, just go to the bank and withdraw it if, they sign the paperwork. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable when we went down, we can walk into the bank here and take out a 500,000 pesos, no problem. I mean, it's just not an issue. Walking into the bank in Butuan, you would have thought they were going to have to hook up with a satellite in Manila that would transmit to some moon base where their secret depository is, and beep, 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 down to the Cebu branch, and then over to the Butuan branch. I mean, it was a nightmare. I mean, we spent hours getting that done. Eventually we did, okay? We bought the land, built the house, the whole 9 yards, but it trying to say it's the same thing. You walk into a bank in Makati or BGC and you want to withdraw, or Angeles City, you want to withdraw 1,000,000 pesos, it's no big deal. We see it all the time. All the time. I mean, we are a preferred customer at BDO, a diamond level or whatever it is. So, we get kind of like processed a little different. So we're always in a little sitting area. We can see, you've got the bank tellers over here, and then you've got another set of desks over there, and preferred banking, special needs, opening accounts, stuff like that's over there. All right. It's not uncommon for us to see guys walk in there and get literally huge brown paper bags full of 1,000 peso notes and shove it all into a backpack and leave. And they're carrying 1,000,000, 1.5 million, 2 million pesos. I mean, it's a lot. Not a big deal. We didn't withdraw nearly that much because it was our earnest money in Butuan. Okay? And getting that was just a pain in the ass. It's different everywhere. So relaying their information is subject to how much money they're living on. Not how much money they make, not how much, not their income, not their net worth, but what their budget is, which is a big difference, okay? Where they live, specifically, and then how they choose to live. I mean, we know YouTubers that are worth quite a bit of money, but live very, very simple lives, and that's perfectly fine, okay? And we know people that don't live very, very simple lives. For them, it's whatever they can do. I give you an example. we saw it happen the other night. We were out at dinner, and a buddy of ours, we saw him across the street, and there was a big ruckus, and we were trying to see what was going on. So I said, what's going on? I'm not going to mention any names. And he said, well, and I know the manager at the bar that he was at, and he said he walked out on his bill. Well, this is unusual because for him, a $10,000 bar bill, a $10,000 peso bar bill is not uncommon. And he never walks out on a bill. He's a very responsible guy. So he's standing over there and he says, look, I gave him my credit card. They ran my credit card. Here's the receipt, the paper receipt of the credit card. And then I left to meet some more friends across the street at another bar. And now they're saying I didn't pay it. But their internet is so weak, I can't connect to my credit card. And my reception is so bad, I got to go up the street. And so he did. And they went with him. They sent 3 of their people with him up the street to where he got decent internet. All right. Pulled up his credit card, and there was no charge there. They ran it, but they didn't process it. Well, that won't happen in other places. I've never seen that happen, somewhere else. And it's the first time it ever happened to him. But in many other places, you would never pay your bar bill by credit card. You would never run up a bar bill of 10,000 pesos. Most of you wouldn't. I'm sure some of you would. All right. But that is the point. It's how they live. So when you watch these vloggers, look at how they live. Does it apply to you? Can you learn something from that? Or are you just going to have to sit there and go to the bullshit meter? Because the final thing is they lie. They blatantly lie. Now, we talked about misinformation. It's not on purpose, but there are, without a doubt, struggling expat YouTubers that embellish what's going on. And that's where you have to be really careful. When they say, I can tell you what it's like to live in the Philippines, and I can tell you what it's like to do this and what it's like to do that, you know something? Some of them are just lying to you. It's not just misinformation. It's not the fact that their life is different. It's blatant lies. So, in the comments below, who do you watch? Who do you believe? Whose information is relevant to you and why? Whose information is pure bullshit to you and why? Could be ours. Don't hesitate to tell us. It's okay. We're big boys and girls. All right? We don't care. If you're rude about it, we'll just remove it. If you're honest about it, not a problem. But in the comments below, do that. Otherwise, please do subscribe, obviously, but hit the thumbs up. Let's push this out for the algorithm so we can get as many people to interact within our community, because we have a great community of subscribers. And your information is just as valuable as our information, because we can't tell you what it's like to live in another place. We can't even begin to tell you because we've only lived, honestly, Makati, Angeles City. I would say that in Mindanao, we vacation. We have a house there, but it's a vacation. It's not living. I certainly wouldn't live there full time. That's for sure. It's just the town is just too small. Otherwise, please do be safe. Do have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.